What's up, everyone? What's happening? Welcome back to another video. Okay, so a couple of hundred of members, officials from the New York City Department of Education has penned a letter to the school chancellor, Richard Carenza, who's an extreme, he's a socialist 100%. He was put there by Mayor de Blasio, who's an open democratic socialist. Penned a letter stating that they want the NYPD removed from the school, from the public schools. Now, the NYPD has their own school safety division. They don't carry guns. Their job is to secure the school systems, to be security, to be police officers for the school system, to keep all the students and the staff and teachers and stuff like that safe. That's their job. That's what they do, and they do a pretty good job at it. Now, the Board of Ed wants them removed, and or either replace or take the school safety agents and let them work for the Board of Ed, let them become Board of Ed school safety and not NYPD school safety. They want to remove the NYPD completely. This is all part of the defund the police movement that we're watching unfold in front of us. Now, the problem with this is, of course, there'll be new guidelines set forth that these agents would have to follow. These guidelines are definitely going to backfire and cause more of a problem than we already have. What's going to happen is the students will get to run wild. There'll be no real safety. They'll tie these security guards' hands behind their back and not let them do their job. They'll be called every name under the sun if they have to intervene and maybe detain a student from doing something. They'll be called racist or something like that for doing this. Is systematic racism. It's funny, they run the system and yet they're claiming systematic racism. You haven't noticed that? It's hysterical. But now there's even celebrities getting involved talking about defund the police. You have Natalie Portman, because she's a super genius, a political genius, and this other liberal lunatic, John Legend, the okay singer at best, and then a few other of these nonsensical celebrities, these worthless celebrities, penning letters stating that they want the police defunded. And you have a lot of other people chanting this either through social media or even in protests. I was watching a clip of a protest in Minneapolis involving their mayor, the mayor there, Jacob Frey. He was asked in the protest, would he be willing to defund the police, and he said no, and they booed him and they pretty much kicked him out of the protest. He had to leave. This is the new sediment, defunding the police, because that's always a smart thing. If you think the black community is high in crime right now, wait until there's no police, and then you'll really see what high crime looks like. With no police, who's going to investigate murders and rapes and assaults and riots and looting and kidnapping? When children go missing, who's going to look for them? When you have all of these issues plaguing society, crime-wise, and really, really bizarre behavior, who is going to be there to police? Who is going to be there to keep the public safe if you defund the police? Now, I don't know if they mean get rid of the police completely or just defund them. Either way, if you get rid of them, there'll be nothing but chaos. If you just defund them and let them stay with less money, they're not going to have the resources to combat crime. You're going to make the situation worse. And this is all to end the systematic racism from the police. I love when they use the word systematic, especially in cities that they are the system. The Democrats control these cities, and yet there's so much problems. I've never seen so many problems within their own system of racism and inequality that they've been claiming to fight against, and they're going to solve for decades now, and they haven't managed to solve that. And that's because they made a career off of it. You can't actually solve it. There's really no way of solving any of this, because this is something that's intrinsic in the human psyche, in our just in our lives, and in the nature of humans. This is how we are. You're always going to have inequality. Some people are just more capable at certain things than others. So you'll always have some form of inequality to one way or, one degree or another. And as far as racism, there's nothing you can do. People have their own thoughts. They don't like other groups, and it is what it is. But the liberals, they just think that they can solve all this with policy making. You actually can't. This is the party of science who doesn't know science, by the way. But to defund the police is definitely asking for an explosion to happen. That's exactly what is going to happen with no police. Now, you would say, where did all this talk come from? Who is bringing this on? Who would come up with such a silly idea like this? I'm just going to take a wild stab at it. I believe that there's the higher ups in this movement. These are the supposed intellects of the movement that are really putting forth these ideas and watching the useful idiots try to make the idea come true, letting them become an echo chamber for these terrible ideas and talk about it and scream at the top of their lungs until they get their way. So Some of these higher ups could be some of the college professors, some of the people with the biggest names in this movement that have a lot of followers that could, they hear something, they tweet it out, they have thousands of followers who retweet it, and there you go. Now you have a whole new sediment in the movement because of this one or two tweets. So the useful idiots will go out there and actually physically do the work while the people pulling the strings are sitting back and watching all of this. These people are aiming towards a communist revolution. I truly, truly believe that that's exactly what they want. And they're going to rely on the stupid people in the movement to actually go out there and physically make it happen. Once there's no police, there'll be complete chaos and anarchy. They're going to destroy everything. It's a perfect time for the higher ups to come in, scoop up, and take control. Now, what happens with the culture yells one thing, it trickles down, the politicians pick up to it, and they run wild with it. This was, I think it was Andrew Breitbart that said, politics is downstream of culture, and that's exactly what you're watching. You're watching a shift in the culture, and then you're watching the politicians shift with them naturally, because that's their constituents, and they want those votes. If you look at socialism, in the past, we've always had that word. We've always had some slight dealings with socialists in the past, but not like we have today. There's been such a radical shift to the left and so many socialists coming out. It is no longer taboo to be a socialist, and they can openly express these ideas. You even have them as politicians now, right? Bernie Sanders, Democratic socialist. He ran twice for president the last two elections, where he almost won the primary. He was right there at the end. It was just, him and one other candidate fighting for the primary 2 elections in a row. You have AOC, who's a congresswoman, and there's a whole handful of other congress people who are open socialists. Mayor de Blasio here, the worst mayor in U.S. history, by the way. He's a Democratic socialist, so is quite a few people on the city council. Also, so is some of the district leaders here, and even in the county committee seats, there's a bunch of socialists that sit in there. In fact, the Democratic Socialist Party is actually constantly in a fist fight with the Democratic Party, with the Kings County Democratic Party, right here in Brooklyn. There's an actual a Democratic Socialist Party who is in competition with the Democratic Party. We're watching it unfold. They were just complaining recently because the Democrats were trying to block the seats of some of these district leaders. They were trying to remove some of the signatures off the ballots needed to run for the seat, even when the seat was empty, to prevent the socialists from taking that seat and becoming a district leader. Right or wrong, it doesn't matter. It's just the fact that socialism is now fully acceptable in our society, which it never was. It wasn't really acceptable, and now it is. The politicians are picking up what the people in the culture is putting down, and therefore the culture, the sediment of the culture, is now starting to translate into policies, within the Democratic Party. We are watching an uprising at this point, it's past the uprising. We're just watching the shift into socialism from the left, and I would go one step further and say communism. Now, I know everything I'm saying seems wild-fetched. It seems a little bit conspiracy theory-ish. Even though I'm not a conspiracy theory, I am just taking a bird's eye view over the situation and giving you my thoughts on the matter. But it's been a couple years. I have been complaining that socialism is growing in this country, and so is communism. And now we're watching all of these socialists in office. We're watching one socialist policy after the next being implemented by the left. We're watching Antifa now, who just made national stage. Everyone's talking about them. They just recently been dedicated a terrorist organization by Donald Trump, by the administration. So obviously what I'm saying has some truth to it. Obviously there is something there. Obviously it is something that is in our face. And I'm just giving you my commentary on the matter. Defunding the police, kicking them out of the school systems. This will lead to nothing but complete chaos. This is just another policy being pushed by the masses in favor of their communist revolution, in favor of their socialism and their nonsense, their piss poor philosophy. This is exactly what it is. And believe me, there will be a lot of politicians on the left that's going to say, yeah, we think that's a good idea, because there already was a few. AOC herself said defunding the police. There was a couple of other ones who tweeted out that it's a good idea to defund the police. So we're actually watching this happen. Andrew Breitbart was very, very, very correct in saying that politics is downstream of culture. He was 100% right. I've heard that phrase from him a few years back, and once I heard it, I knew that it was a very, 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 very strong a statement that he made. And I watched the culture and then watched people in politics pretty much advocate for what I saw previously in the culture. We're watching this happen. We are a few years removed from the Democratic Party outright calling for communism. It's going to happen. And when it does, hopefully I'm wrong, but when it does, this is just an opinion of mine. But if it does, when it does, we can go back to this video and I can say I told you so. I'll see you guys in the next video. Please like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.